We can just go and talk mess. So we officially live now.
Okay.
So I would like you ladies to introduce yourselves so that our audience will get to know who you are and what you do and everything, because we have new audience of different individuals. So let's go. Natalie.
Oh, it's me? Okay. Um, Hi, everyone. My name is Natalie Bryan. I'm a licensed clinical social worker here in the Augusta, Georgia area. I do individual counseling, couples counseling, and group sessions. And I'm just here to be a service to the people. I'm also a minister at my church, Faith Outreach, where my pastors are um, Pastor Bishop Peoples. So I appreciate his time and his approval for allowing me to do this.
Okay, welcome. Doc.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is the Reverend Doctor A. Louise Bonaparte, and it is an MD behind that. I am by trade a surgical oncologist, which means a cancer surgeon. However, I do wear many hats, and I think I used to say I have a plate, but I have actually a platter. I am the CEO of JBAS Global Enterprises, and that includes over 150 businesses globally. Also, I am the president of AL Bonaparte Ministries. That is my preaching and teaching ministry in conjunction with my 7 nonprofits. And finally, I mean, of course, I do more, but I'm just because of time. Finally, I am the second presiding prelate, and I'm right next to my mom and the Archbishop of the Temple of the Good Shepherd Ministries Worldwide, headquarters in Brooklyn, New York, at 150 Noble Street in the Greenpoint section of Brooklyn. And the ministry, we are currently located in 200 countries.
Goodness.
That's
That's
a lot, right?
yes.
Yes,
That's a
yes,
lot.
So
yes.
I'm like the perfect person to be here on this mental health.
Yes.
Yeah.
So let's get into mental health. How is it affecting the Black community right now, especially with no one is able to want to see a therapist? They think it's a bad thing. So, what are the things that you guys feel that is something that we should seek in the Black community?
Well, I think mental health has always been looked at. It's been stigmatized. It's always been looked at as taboo or something that is not for me because I'm black or I'm strong. A lot of black women have that superwoman, superhero syndrome where I can do all things. I don't need somebody. I'm independent. You know, sometimes our men feel like it's stupid. It's not. It's not what they need. They're too strong for it. But we all have points where we need support. We need someone who can hear us out. And we may need more than talk therapy. We may need medication management. We may need some other modalities. I mean, even though it may be shocking, there are people that are doing really well with things like electroshock therapy, people who are doing really well with EMDR, which is like an eye rapid movement therapy. There are so many different therapeutic modalities that are out here to help us with our mental health.
Yes, it definitely is. Especially, I know what's real huge in the Black community and other race as well is gaining developing mental health issues as a young adult or a young child. And one of those things are molestation and rape, and sometimes it goes down the line through generations. What are some of the things that you could give them some advice on how to cope with it and how to seek help for it?
For me, I know for me, the first business that I opened when I moved to Augusta, I'm from New York, born and raised in Brooklyn, lived in Freeport, Long Island. But I thought about creating an organization, and it's called Pearl, providing education and advocacy to rebuild lives. And I created Pearl because I worked in child protective services for over 10 years. My last couple of years was in sex abuse. And so you saw the prevalence of that in our communities of color. So I started educating on the prevention of child sexual abuse, how children who are sexually abused and molested are really easy targets for human trafficking. So just educating parents on what they need to look for so that they can start talking to their children about healthy touch and proper names for body parts and just being educated, whether it's mental health, whether it's molestation, whatever the issues are, if you're educating and enlightening, it takes away the ignorance from it, it takes away the secret from it, and it takes away the power from it if you know what it is that you're dealing with head on. But I think a lot of things, for most people, I knew when I grew up, you always saw those little monkeys in the house with the eyes, the ears, the mouth, because what happens in the house stays in the house.
Yes.
And a lot of times that's what keeps people entrapped in this mental space of I can't say anything, I can't do anything, and people live with that trauma for so long. People don't even realize that that mental health trauma can start to physically manifest, and Dr. Bonaparte can attest to that. And that's why people who are depressed, they're feeling pains in their stomach, they're too tired, they can't move, their joints are hurting because that stress is now manifested physically. So getting the education is definitely priority.
Yes. What do you think about it, that?
I concur.
Mhm,
You have to tackle the issue when it first surfaces,
mhm,
because if you allow a certain issue to prolong, it is going to be, not could be, detrimental to your physical body. And I always look at things in a spiritual aspect, and it also can ruin your spiritual life as well, because when your mind is not right, everything else falls apart.
Yes, that's definitely true. What
Yes.
in some cases, sometimes, like when it comes to molestation and rape, or when that happens, it's always a close family friend within the family.
Right.
And also, I know a lot of people that have battled of no one believing them, or they
mhm,
just sweep it under the rug and just want them to move forward with their lives without any form of justice or even form of therapy.
mhm,
That's right. And the unfortunate thing is, a lot of things, it's already an issue in the Black community. However, in the church world,
mhm,
it's really a hush hush issue.
mhm,
The thing that we have to grow out of is just pray and keep quiet.
mhm,
They've been telling us that for years, and we have to tackle this, and we have to look at this in a different light, because where has it landed us?
mhm,
Nowhere. In
mhm,
fact, things have begun in a down spiral.
mhm,
Yeah.
And a lot of times, I really think the church has really, I would say, we're raising dysfunctional people because
absolutely.
we are not really talking about mental health in the church. And then on top of that, your leaders, the leaders, I'm a leader, you don't know how to tackle it. I
Mhm,
don't think, this is my personal opinion, I
mhm,
don't think a leader should be allowed to counsel a person. You should be able, in fact, in your church or in your organization, you should have connections to a mental health, a therapist, and you should have someone on board on your team, because the pastor went to seminary. He or she is not trained to be a therapist, and they might tell the person the wrong thing.
That's true.
I
That's true.
you touched on several things earlier that I wanted to go back to. A lot of times, parents, some of the things that I talk about in Pearl, a lot of times parents don't recognize that they are the gatekeepers to their children. And that is why 90% of sexual abuse and molestation is by a person that is a relative or close to the family because they have access to that child.
Right.
Sometimes it's a close family friend, sometimes it's a safe adult that the family really trusts, and they don't recognize that all of this is going on. So once it is found out, 90% of the times, children are not believed. Or even if they are believed, they are not confirmed to say, I believe you, and let's try to get you justice or let's handle this. Whether, however, the family sees fit to handle it, but where the child or the young adult feel like they've gotten justification for what's happened to them. Because now the child doesn't have to deal with just the trauma of the situation, but now they have to deal with the trauma and the embarrassment of everybody knows what happened, yet and still nothing has happened. So we have now created a society that protects perpetrators. And
Absolutely.
that's why human trafficking right now is a $1 billion industry
Yes.
Yes.
because our
Yes.
children, our young adults have become the commodity of society because so much hush hush has gone on that now, okay, we're in this secret place. You know, I've watched so many specials about sex workers and things like that. They were so happy about dismantling what was that blackboard or someplace where they were meeting, the chat rooms that were, you where you go pick up sex workers and stuff like that. But all they've done is scattered further perpetrators, scattered further sex workers in places that they have no idea of how people are moving and being trafficked and things of that nature. Human trafficking in Georgia is especially high. We were number two, we're now number three in the country statewide because it is so easy to traffic children out of Georgia. You get on 20, you can literally hit almost any interstate, and you have access to almost any interstate off of the highway. So it is important that we do deal with that trauma immediately. We do confirm our children or our victims and stop protecting the perpetrator because that all of those things are different layers of trauma. And then you want children and young adults to grow up to be functioning members of society when they have all of this hurt and trauma. And what do we know about what hurt people do? They hurt other people.
Other people.
Absolutely.
Then you also, even with the children battling those type of situations, the parents sometimes have dealt with it too. And
Mhm.
that person, whoever that treated them the same way, they just bringing it down the line and treat their kids the same way because that's all they know. But
Mhm.
however, it has to be a point where we have to stop that thought process, break that cycle, and actually do something about it because at some point in our lives, we're adults, we know right from wrong. And it's just sometimes people just want to be quiet. And then, even with the human trafficking, a lot of our leaders are leaders of the human trafficking.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
Mhm.
we have situations like that too. And it's like, who do we trust?
Absolutely. And
That's right.
that's really where our parents have to have a real relationship and connection with our children. A lot of times parents, I think one of the things that COVID has made really, really, really visible is the fact of the disconnect between families during this time. Families do not even recognize other family members. Right now, the divorce rate is through the roof, the abuse rate is through the roof because parents don't want to deal with kids, they don't want to deal with spouses, they don't want to deal with any of those things because guess what? Life kept them so busy, they
Yeah.
didn't have to deal with those things. So now you've had to slow down, you've had to be in isolation with your family. You had to get to know your children. You had to get to know your spouse. And that's what happens and that's how kids get taken. That's how our young adults get taken because we're so busy, but we're not paying attention.
And they
And
start
so,
raising themselves
mhm,
too.
Absolutely.
absolutely. Could you repeat that for me?
They start raising themselves.
Absolutely. A lot of children are parentified or parents utilize media to
Mhm.
babysit. So, and if you really pay attention to, I mean, this thing has so many layers, but when you think about media, And how could they will walk in front of a car because they're not paying attention. You know, I've had experiences where kids literally would sit there and urinate and defecate and do whatever right in that same spot, not to move from playing a video game.
Wow.
So we have to really start to interact, engage, and start to work on our children because, and our young adults, because this is why when you see responses to things, it's such extremes. You know, there's never a balance because they never really got to go out and engage in real life with people to learn about rejection, to learn about socialization, to learn, you know, everything is so temporal. So as soon as something happens, it's a catastrophe. It's the extreme. So it's us in teaching our kids how to engage. And I think that COVID has really brought to the forefront some real serious issues because now parents have to see how their kids interact in school in the daytime. These poor teachers had 30 or 40 of your child, and half of you can't deal with your own child.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yes, that is true. And also it's to a point where they understand and see that how far along they are with their education also. Because
Hmm.
everyone be like the teacher, why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you doing that? And people will see the things that the teacher go through and what things are missing that they need to implement in school.
Feedback on how this is working.
You said what now?
I was saying, do you have, I was asking Dr. Bonaparte if she had any
Yes.
feedback.
Oh, absolutely. Um, I have feedback because in my nonprofits, we have over since COVID-19 has begun, we have made several initiatives to start these programs specifically for mental health.
Hmm.
And one was a program, and everything we offer is free of charge. One is to offer advanced studies to licensed therapists, especially African American therapists. And also, we have made programs for families, specifically families, to deal with the issues because, as Minister Natalie said, they don't know how to handle being around each other because they really do not know each other. So
Right.
we have made these programs so they can talk about things, they can realize what's going on, what they have to change, what they were not tackling. And right now, it's really helping because some people are deciding just to separate, while others are trying to become a closer knit family. But this, as you said, the COVID-19 has really brought some things to light on
Yeah.
several topics within mental health, and there are several layers that we should have already discussed. And now, because a pandemic came, we are not prepared all around.
Right. That is true. And I've noticed also when you're mentoring a youth program, even though you're mentoring them all the way until they're 18, it's
Mhm.
like they still need a exit system to a point
Absolutely.
if services provided for them from 18 to maybe even 30 years old because once they're done with you when they go out in the real world sometimes they shift and transition right back to when before they even came to you in the first place
That's right.
and then they miss all the information that was given to them to prepare them for the real world. So that's when a lot more mental health issues transpire and a lot of things in their lives become so cloudy and they feel lifeless, lonely, and some of them don't even know the path anymore because
That's
dealing
right.
with a whole new life is different.
Exactly. And you know what? Even beyond 30, I've had people in my program and some people that are lay members in their 70s that still have mental issues because of something they experienced as a child,
Yeah.
and they never addressed the issue. Like
Absolutely.
I had one lady, uh, her daddy raped her and she's in her 70s. And she said her mother told her to be quiet. Same thing happened to her mother. Here it is 3 generations later, the teenager had to come to me, and I'm no therapist. I had to contact the therapist. She spoke to me about it, and it was just a cycle. It's just a cycle. So we have to address the issues. We cannot be quiet about it, especially in the Black church. This is what I am so concerned about as a Christian, as a minister of the gospel. We need to do better in talking about mental health. It's not a taboo. We
Mhm.
have to realize that it is an imperative situation. It is an issue that we must talk about. We must handle this. We must tackle it. We must have more conferences on it instead of having all these preaching conferences. And you
Yes.
can clap and shout and hoop and spit all you want. But if your mind is not right, you're not going to get any deliverance.
You're gonna go right once you leave, you're gonna go right back to
Go
that.
right back.
Them
Absolutely.
few hours
Absolutely.
is not enough for anybody
Exactly.
to transition their minds. It's like
That's
you
right.
you have to take the time out and give them the proper education and the proper therapist to even
Exactly.
Mhm.
counsel them to get them right, because a lot of people aren't healed
Mhm.
That's right.
so many ways. That's why we constantly have people hurting other people. And now a lot of
Absolutely.
people don't realize we all deal with mental illness for the rest of our lives, but it's just a growth process that we have to be willing to face and let it pass us by. But we got to get help for it first.
That's right.
Absolute mental health, there's a people always attribute mental illness with mental health. Mental
Mhm.
health is about your holistic wellness of taking care
Absolutely.
of your mind, your body, your spirit, emotionally. Because if your mind is not right, your body is going to follow what your mind tells it
That's
to do.
right.
Yes.
So my thing is that's your whole health is
Your
mental
whole
health.
health.
If you're
That's right.
diabetic, you're going to go to a doctor. You're going to get your insulin, your diet. You're going to do what you have to do to get well. And that's what a therapist is. It doesn't have to
Mhm.
be, okay, reactive. It can be proactive. You're struggling a little bit. You find a therapist that fits you. You address some issues that are reactive, not wait till you get to the breaking point and have a psychotic break because you didn't
That's right.
take the preemptive things to do. I also
That's
tell
right.
people therapists, just because they're black, just because they're white, just because they're Asian or whatever, that doesn't mean that they're the right fit for you. I tell people therapists are like shoes. If it doesn't fit, find yourself another pair.
That's
Because
right.
not every therapist, you're the consumer. You're the
That's
person that
right.
knows if something is gelling with you or not. So if you feel like you're getting this vibe off of the therapist, you don't feel like you're being taken seriously or being heard, then you transition and say, hey, I tried you out for a couple of weeks. I don't know if this is the right fit for me. And in all honesty, if you have an in tune therapist, they would be the ones to say, hey, do you feel like this is working for you? If
Right.
not, if this is not a good fit, then let me
Mhm.
find you someone else that I think may be a good fit. Here's 3 or 4 people, check them out, see what you think, and then, continue on your journey to wellness. And that's what a good therapist would do because you're not going to be a fit for everyone.
That's right.
Right.
That's right. And I can attest to that because I had several therapists and it just wasn't a good fit. And most recently, I had an African American, and she was just ill all the time, making excuses, keep changing around sessions. And then I transferred to a Jewish woman, and she was a sweetheart, but she would say some of the most asinine things. I would mention to her, and I think I want to touch, if it's all right with you ladies, on racism, how it's affecting us. And I would tell her the things I was going through, and this is, I wanted to really react differently, but thank the Lord I'm saved. She tells me, I understand. I marched with Dr. King. I said, I don't care if you ate a hamburger with him. You don't know what I'm going through. And then I asked her, did she read certain books? And then she goes back, and because she was offended, Well, do you know who James Baldwin is? I mean,
Hmm.
like you can't you can't deal with people like that. You have to move on. You need someone who understands you, as a therapist here says, someone who you can click with, someone who understands what you're going through. And especially now, we have COVID. That's a
Hmm.
pandemic. We have racism. That's a pandemic. And
Hmm.
if that's your issue and your therapist cannot handle that, you need to move on.
Absolutely. I would say I have had several people when the camera pops up because I'm doing primarily telehealth. They're like,
Mhm.
"Oh my gosh, you're black." They're
Oh,
so
really?
excited to
Really?
see. Yeah, they're so
Oh,
excited. They are. They're so excited that they have an African American therapist. They're like, "Oh my gosh, thank you. It's somebody like me," because they're so worried. When I get a lot of black clients, they're so worried. Like, okay, I was really hoping that you were going to be a black therapist because
yeah,
I wanted somebody that I didn't feel like I had to fill in all the gaps for, that someone who would kind of
exactly.
understand if I said
Exactly.
something, they would get it. And it tickles me because I'm like, yeah, I am a black. I mean, one lady was so just shocked. She was like, oh my gosh, I'm so happy. And and I feel good when people feel good because
Yeah,
if
Yes,
they feel good, then they're going to get more comfortable and they're going to start to talk because
absolutely.
we all know that everything takes building rapport. And you may not get to the crux of the situation until 5, 6, 7 weeks down the road because
That's
they're
right.
trying to test you out to see, okay, can I trust you with this? Can I trust her with that? Can I trust you with this?
Right,
Can I trust? And then after a while, they're like, oh, okay, I know she has me, so I could say what's really going on with me. So that's
right,
why you give people an opportunity. That's you tell people when they're
right.
trying out therapists, you don't try for like a week or two. You may get a
Hmm.
not so great fit right off the bat, but I tell people
Right,
you give people to try 4, 5, 6 weeks, see if it's a good
right,
fit. If not, then you're like, okay, this is not working for me, and then
right.
transition.
Yes, yes.
that is really needed in so many ways. How could you give people advice on the first steps to even seeking a therapist for them to obtain that help? Because some people don't even know how to search it.
Well, I mean, honestly, you can go. There's so many platforms right now. You can go on Therapy for Black Girls. You can go on Psychology Today. They actually have a Therapy for Black Men's website. Um, Black Therapist Rocks has a directory. There's so many different directories that are going on right now, especially Clinicians of Color has a directory. I'm a member of Clinicians of Color, and they're really an excellent group and just different resources for people of color so that if they feel like they really need and I know this is programming where people don't want to touch topic on it, but also our LGBTQIA population and how they're struggling because we have a lot of people of color who are struggling in that population also, and
Hmm.
the suicide rate in those populations are extremely high. And then now with COVID, with the isolation, if they don't feel like they are with people that accept them, they are now also struggling extremely, extremely, extremely poor. They're really struggling. And so finding a therapist for them that they feel comfortable with also is a huge, huge need. So we have so many different populations right now that are just struggling. The isolation is hurting them. They are facing depression. They are facing anxiety is through the roof. It's
Oh,
just so many different things going on right now. And we already have our basic life stressors. So when you add on specialty things, just say
yeah.
that's a whole other layer to it. So
Yeah.
Oh,
Dr. Louise, with you being in the hospitals, what experience have you seen as far as that relates to mental health with people um, having COVID, and then families weren't able to see their family before they passed, or even
mhm.
dealing with the patient that know they're getting ready to pass without even seeing their loved ones?
Yeah. Well, first of all, it's stressful for the staff. Uh,
Right.
for me, it's prayer. Others that are not spiritual, they actually gave boo-hoo and they cry. I've had some people that I even know that has committed suicide within these months because we're working long hours. We are stressed out, and then we're dealing with people. Not only are they ill, they have these mental, I would say, breakdowns because you're getting it from the family members, you're getting it from the patient, and it is horrific to see this. And it's just, it's just, I'm lost for words. It's, how can I phrase this? Is that it should have been more training in this area. I mean, this pandemic came so quickly, and a lot of people, they are really not accustomed how to tackle this, how to handle this. Everybody can't have breakdowns at once. And
Right.
then once they have the physical breakdown, then you have your staff, you have the loved ones, you have the patients. It affects the body. And I think for the patients with COVID, they're lying there dying, and some of them are even dying faster
Mhm.
because of anxiety.
Mhm.
They're there, they're isolated, they know they have a deadly disease. I've had some patient family members that have died also, or while their loved one was in the hospital, they were admitted in the hospital for a stroke or heart attack.
Mhm.
So I feel it all around myself as a staff member. And then I hate to sound redundant, but it's just a domino effect because everyone is actually breaking down. And this is nothing that we've never seen this before.
Mhm.
Right.
Never.
And that's what the major issue is, and this is
Yes,
in the hospital. The major issue is COVID is a phenomenon. We don't know what
yes,
our actual new normal is, so we're technically
exactly.
free falling every day. We're
Yeah,
minute to minute
absolutely.
on everything, and so people are out of control. They have no foundational thing or anchor to
Mhm.
kind of keep them, so then
Absolutely.
mentally they start to struggle. And when you're out of
Mhm.
control, your anxiety starts ratcheting up. I promise you, people are going to be in credit card debt.
Oh,
They're going to put on a whole ton of weight. They're going to, I mean, because they're using coping mechanisms to kind of control things that they are in control of, like finances and shopping and eating and over exercising and just overdoing. This is why abuse is getting prevalent, divorce is getting prevalent, separation is getting prevalent, because people are just at their wits' end trying to figure out what's coming next. And
yes,
because they don't have
absolutely.
an idea of that, this is where we are.
Right.
Correct. And then on the health aspect, they told us, and I'm a research scientist, and we're still researching, and everything is still not clear. That
Hmm.
bothers me because it's different strands of COVID.
Hmm.
They do not tell you everything. It's just, I find it amusing and annoying at the same time when you go through the feed on social media and people have so much to say,
Hmm.
especially these clergy. I always tell people, stay in your lane. You
Hmm.
don't know anything. You didn't go to medical school. You say you're a clergy person. You're a mailman, or you don't know what I know. You don't know what we don't know. We have our own lanes to stay in. And even the what I'm studying, we're still researching. Like, I'm not sure if you know that you still can get COVID within 6 feet,
Yes,
beyond 6 feet.
Right.
It's coming out something new every day.
every
Now
day.
it's like it's about more than 6 feet. It would be maybe, I would say, over 12 feet if someone
Hmm.
speaks or sneezes. So all this time, we're just staying 6 feet from each other and saying, "Oh, that's good," but we're still getting it,
They're
and
getting it.
it's still circulating, and then it's different strands of COVID, and no
Hmm.
one is clear, and the media is downplaying it. So that takes a toll on your mental health,
Yes.
really, because you don't know what's going on. Even people in the health professions, they're fighting against each other, even on medicine, what to take.
Hmm.
Like the lady, Dr. Stella, that was such a big thing. Everyone
Hmm.
has their own opinion on it. I will say on that, I don't say it is a cure because people are so-called experts out there. It is not a cure. They
Mhm.
have not officially proven the medicine. However, if you take it in the beginning, like
Mhm.
if you first have the symptoms, if you catch it, if you feel it, because sometimes you do not have symptoms. You can just be talking. I can be talking now and I might have it. God forbid. But that's the thing about COVID. So if you take it and you have symptoms, you can take the medicine right away and it will subside it. But I don't say it's a the cure.
Mhm.
So it's still controversy on that. I'm telling you, don't go on social media and write the wrong things. Anybody who's watching this, stay in your lane because a lot of people, your followers, might be following you and agree with you. Myself, as a medical doctor, a surgeon, a research scientist, we still do not know it all because it's new things coming out. And we thought we had something, then we searched a little more and said, you know what? It's worse than that. And
Wow.
guess what? When the fall comes, it's going to be another strand because people are not following rules about face mask. Okay. Why can't you wear face masks? Why can't you social distance? If people will cooperate and do the right thing, then it can be, subsided down. But it's in your hands, people. Wash your hands thoroughly. Don't go here and there. Right now, I'm on Martha's Vineyard just to get out of New York City. I'm not going all out shopping and things. My nieces are with me. They're doing their thing. And I told them if they keep going out, they're going to have to get a hotel room. They can't come back in the house because there's still a lot of people here on the vineyard. Me and my little puppy here, we're minding our business. The whole thing is just, we're just away relaxing. But don't be out. I'm seeing people out without masks and going here, there, and everywhere. No, ma'am, no, sir. This is not the time to do that. So all of this is affecting our mental status because we cannot do what we normally would have done. Like every year, my birthday is in September, 1st of September. And I always have a big party most of the times on Martha's Vineyard. I can't do that. I'm
Mhm.
most of the time going somewhere to preach or teach, or I'm never in the USA. I'm always traveling. So that affects me mentally because
Yeah.
I am not used to staying home. People are saying, oh, you need a break. But for me, it affects me mentally because what is this? Like our therapist said, what is this new normal? It's a
Mhm.
so called new normal because every second, every minute, something's changing.
Yes.
Exactly. Exactly.
I have I have a daycare center, and they upped our ratios because it used to be 9 children per room, and they still want us to obtain social distance with children and
Mhm.
have dividers in the classroom and everything. And they wanted us to increase our numbers. I personally didn't increase my numbers because I'm
Mm-mm.
scared too. And
No.
like even when I enroll new children, I already had the same children since it started. So everyone
Mhm.
knows the routine. I already know the parents' destination, how they come back and get them. And
Right.
it's kind of difficult not knowing so much when they give us information the day before something occur. And then
Mhm.
the fact of them having this image of that children can't get it or
Mhm.
just different things of that nature. And
Mhm.
it's really hard for even children to keep the mask on because
Right.
they want our school agers to keep the mask on, but
Right. They
they
can. It will affect their respiratory system.
Mhm.
How can
Mhm.
you sit there? Now, let me tell you something. We wear masks during surgery. Most surgeries, it depends on the type of surgery, but we don't wear it all day.
Mhm.
Adolescents, senior citizens, even regular adults, it is
Mhm.
difficult to keep your mask on at a certain period of time. People are saying, oh, ain't nothing to wear your mask. No, you're up there with your mask on all this time. This is not a myth. You do get dizzy.
Mhm.
Your breathing slows down. I don't know if you heard or not. In China, even in America, some places children are wearing masks and they're dropping dead You shouldn't be doing physical activity. My opinion is that the United States of America and every state, they should have said, you know what, let's take this school system and begin it next year. Let's begin it next year. I don't know why they're putting everyone's life in danger. I just don't understand that. They should have, I mean, this is United States of America. I mean, those who are watching internationally, but still, we're here and America, and everyone should have some kind of system, internet system for the children. Because when you're sending them back too quickly, you're putting the teachers' lives in danger. And you know, how can children have fun? From
Right.
children all the way up to college. When you go into college, that's all a part of college. You know, the dorm room experience, being away and talking with people. So it
Mhm.
all boils down. This just really gives, everybody has anxiety. So
Mhm.
you're anxious, your mind is anxious, you're scared you're going to get a disease. And it all boils back down to leadership. It didn't have to go as far as it has gone in the spreading of the virus, and especially my governor, what he said, everybody's supposed to be open in New York State. He was doing so well, and you're going to open it back, and we were the epicenter. Why would you want to put so many people's lives in danger? Because it's going to circulate. You're going to have teachers dying, children dying. Then the children are going to take it back home to their parents. This is why it's going to get worse in the fall.
Yes.
I,
Yes.
I
And
saw an article.
Natalie, you guys' governor did the same thing too, right? Opened
First,
everything.
first to open,
Mhm,
last to close, and it is
mhm,
a mess in Georgia. Honestly, the rates are through the roof. I can honestly say here in Augusta, Georgia, our numbers are getting higher, but it's not anywhere like Atlanta is. But I mean,
mhm,
our numbers do increase, and it really is sad because you want everyone to be safe, and some people are feeling, hey, you're encroaching on my liberties, you're this, you're that, but you have to, if you're human and you don't want to see any of your family members hurting or dying, then be considerate of others. You may not be struggling, but you don't know if that person next to you has an underlying medical condition that makes them super susceptible to something that they can't. I'm asthmatic, severe asthmatic, has been that way the day I was born. I spent months and months in the hospital at a time since I was a baby. And
Mhm.
for me, being in the mask is a struggle sometimes, but I do what I have to do because I understand that I am susceptible. It is a respiratory disease. I already have a respiratory issue. I have to make sure that I'm safe. So I do telemental health. I don't go into my office at this time. A lot of therapists have done telemental health, but there are therapists who are seeing people in person. And that's their choice. As long as they're being safe and everything is great, hey, more power to them. But you have to also think about the person. It may not just be about you. That's the human thing. It's not just about you sometimes. Sometimes it is about that person next to you. There was a devastating article that I read the other day about this woman who worked, I believe she worked as a home health person, West Indian, Jamaican. My parents are Jamaican, and they lived in a three family home or a home where it's multi generational, and she was very strict, separated herself from her family, everything, did everything she could do in her nursing home. People were just going left and right, but she was holding out. Then one evening she couldn't take it anymore, the mask, the everything. She just ran out of her house and she was having a breakdown, and her elderly mother went and embraced her, and her mother got the disease and literally died. And that woman is so distraught and devastated. The way the article was even written, you could just feel the hurt that came from that woman. And even though everyone's like, don't blame yourself, don't blame you, how could you say that it's not you? And these are the things that people are dealing with emotionally. They're grieving their families. These people are coming home, family members are getting sick, they have to deal with the guilt of that. Then they can't even bury their families appropriately the way that they're used to burying them. So they're dealing with the grief of that, I didn't put them away properly. It's hard. I watched my uncle's funeral on Zoom 3 weeks ago, and I didn't even know how to process watching my uncle's funeral on Zoom.
Mhm.
It's sad.
Mhm.
And it,
Let me tell you, I totally understand. Yesterday and today, my dear friend from the Bronx, Natalie, you know her, Bishop Michelle White Haynes,
Michelle White, I saw
called me
that.
up because I would have came back to left the vineyard, but I just can't be around so many people anymore.
Hmm.
And I can attest to that when you're watching, from afar, that really disturbs you. It makes you feel distraught, like what's going on. And then me as a leader, when I'm burying these people and the family members, it's only 10 people, and it's just so heartbreaking. So it takes a toll on you, on your mind. Your entire body just breaks down. But it's this stress, and it leads to depression even
Right.
more. I think it's depression has tripled. And
Absolutely.
me, I don't know. I just thank God for a praying mother. Thank
Hmm.
God if you have a praying mother. Thank God I do know the Lord, because I'm telling you, I think there is nobody has experienced as much as deaths that I have. My
Hmm.
colleagues, my friends, my uncles, my aunts. I was in Augusta, was like 3 weeks ago. My
Hmm.
godmother wanted me to do her eulogy. And it's just, I don't know. It was just too much.
Hmm.
And my congregation in itself, because if you have a ministry all over the world, people are calling you and you can't get to them, and you have
right,
to Zoom with them. And it's thousands of people that I know that have died. So people saying, "Oh, I've had hundreds of people." I've had thousands of people. So
Hmm.
imagine how I'm feeling. And
right,
then I'm the leader, not just the pastor, because my mother is getting older. Even though she's the chief apostle, everyone looks at me. And
right.
I'm so many people are pulling. So what do we do as leaders? We don't know. You can't tell people your personal business. You
Hmm.
can't tell your congregation how you're feeling, because in the Christian faith, when you're saying you're weak, oh, then you're a punk, or you don't believe in God.
Hmm.
Yeah.
That's how we tackle it. You should know better. And you be careful who you tell things to,
Hmm.
because sometimes you can get more in a funk than you were before. I shared something with someone who I thought was a close friend, and that person said, "Well, you know better. You must don't have the Holy Ghost." That has nothing to do with
Got
it.
nothing to do with it.
And so I'm saying, yes, I do. Do I have it? And I said, no, the devil's a liar. No, I'm
Hmm.
saved. You can be saved, filled with the Holy Ghost, but you're a human. Let me tell you something. Jesus Christ had feelings. When
He
Lazarus died,
did.
what did he do? He wept.
Hmm.
Even before he knew he had to die for us. But he
Hmm.
was in a state of depression and said, Father, take this cup away
Take
from
this
me.
cup from me. Yes, he
And even
did.
when he was on the cross and he said, "Is this?" Do you know? Even though all those things that was happening to him, he really died of depression, really, because his heart was broken.
Yeah. Yep. And
So
then
that is really something we have to talk about. This thing and the stigmatism in the Black community and each culture within the Black community. But we have to come together, and then we as Christians, we really have to talk about it. I think I really need to do. I've been pondering on it, and maybe we can work together. We need to have some kind of clergy, all the
Hmm.
clergy have to get together, because most of them don't really know how to tackle it. And most of them are depressed themselves. They were depressed before COVID came.
Before COVID. Before COVID.
Being a leader, that's a bit much. You're a
It's
minister
a
one thing,
responsibility.
when your pastor's another. But imagine me. I'm not talking about no bishop and you have 5 members and a cane as your member. I'm talking about a bishop with several churches, and that's a lot. So
Mhm.
people don't understand. We're humans. Everybody's a human being. People have feelings. Be careful who you talk to, who gets into your spirit, because you can be fine and
yes.
then you think about something. When it gets in your mind, that can mess your whole spirit up and mess your mind up. If I think about my ex too hard, I'm gonna get mad and might want to say the wrong things. So you gotta think.
Yes.
about what's entering into you, who you talk to, because that mind, once it's in your mind, I'm telling you. So we have to keep our mind healthy. And I want to say, preachers, preach the whole gospel. Don't
Mhm.
just preach the word, Hika Messiah. We, that's what my ministry is about. The total man,
Mhm.
your mind,
Mhm.
your body, your health, your soul, everything. Preach the whole gospel. Because you can't have your parishioners coming and going all year and they're still not mentally delivered.
Mm-hmm. And just being honest with yourself,
And being honest, that's right.
yeah. And that's a struggle also. And even going back to you saying every like people protecting your spirit and protecting your surroundings. A lot of
Mhm,
people need to understand that sometimes you feel things and you deny that feeling and but you just keep
mhm.
going because it creates you to want more and like
That's
crave it. But when you know it's not right for you, and people need to
mhm,
gain the strength to avoid situations like that because
that's
nothing good comes with it.
right.
So
That's right.
you have to protect yourself at all times and
You.
cling on to your common sense to know like this person isn't right and
That's
I need
true.
to remove myself from them because a
That's
lot of things will start to transpire in your life and you'll be questioning why why for so long until you figure
mhm,
out like, oh wow, that's why they're doing this and that to me. And it's okay to not have a lot of friends. It's okay to even be alone sometimes. Just prioritize
mhm.
your time for something that helps you, that fits you of your life and the path that you're trying to go into.
That's
Some of
right.
the real struggle that people are having right now with isolation is um,
Yeah.
the quiet is too loud for them.
Yeah,
Mhm.
And the
yeah,
quiet is too loud because they have so much going on in their head, so much going on in their
That's
feelings
right.
and emotions. It's too much. So
it
you,
That's
starts
right.
to make them
yeah, it's
their
Yeah.
problem.
exactly. It's
Mhm.
too much noise for them. So have you ever been with someone and they cannot be in the quiet for more than 5 minutes? Like the radio has to be on 10,000, the TV got to be going. Everything is just chaotic and going because the quiet is too loud for them. They would have to address the issues and the thoughts that they're dealing with in their mind. And a lot of times, before COVID, now COVID, we are dealing with people who just don't want to deal with their thoughts, their feelings, and their
Mhm.
emotions. You know, I deal
Mhm.
with couples all the time, and I talk to my couples and I said, how is it okay for you guys to sleep together, to lay together, to do everything together? But for you to say to that person, you hurt me, or this isn't working for me, or this situation needs to change, that's a difficult thing for you.
That's
Yes.
But
right.
you're sleeping. You're at your most vulnerable when you're sleeping. You can't defend yourself. You can't do anything. So it's okay for me to put myself in bodily harm. But that
Mhm.
emotional, mental, I'm not giving that up. I don't understand that. And these are the things that we deal with when we're dealing with people and how sometimes it becomes illogical
Mhm.
or nonsensical in dealing with our feelings and emotions. And
Mhm.
and talking about some of the things that we're talking about in mental health, a lot of times when we're dealing with relationships, even relationship with family, relationship with others, we parent how we were parented. And when I say parent, I also
That's
mean
right.
gain our environment and all of those
That's
things.
right.
It's learned behavior, three, four
That's
generations
right.
of trauma. We walk around in dysfunction every single day
Yes.
because of how it was learned. I hear this story all the time, and I was cracking up when I heard this lady for Thanksgiving. You know, her mom made turkeys in 2 pans, and she seasoned it, everything, and everything was great. And this one year, they're making the turkey, and her husband put it in one pan and wrapped it up and put it in the oven, and this woman had a fit. No, it needs to be in 2 pans. It needs to be just like this so it can come out the right way. And she was so upset with this husband, and she was tearing up the place. And he was like, I don't understand. Like, we're cooking a turkey. It could be in one pan. It fit in one pan. Like, why are we going through that? And she went through all of these feelings and emotions. and was so upset and distraught that Thanksgiving was ruined and this, that, and the third. And when her mother came and her mother was talking, I was like, "Why are you so upset?" And she was explaining to her he didn't put it in the two pans like you do, and it's not going to come out right, and da 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 da. And the mother simply turned to her and said, "We had it in two pans because we couldn't afford one pan to fit our turkey."
Wow.
So she learned that if it was two pans, it was going to be perfect.
Mm-hmm.
But it was an affordability thing, not a mental thing, not a taste thing, not a, you know what I'm saying? So sometimes people do things out of tradition, out of
Yeah.
habit, not necessarily because it's the right or the best thing to do.
You're
It,
right.
it just so happenstance that economically they couldn't afford one pan to fit the turkey. So they had to cut the turkey in two and put it into two pans they could afford. But
Yeah.
her whole world was shattered because it did not happen the way that her mother did it. And that's how we learn to deal with things. Our attachment to our parents help dictate our attachment to relationships with other people. I talk to people all the time. I keep my book right here next to me. I got 10 books that I always talk to my people. It didn't start with you. How we can deal with inherited family trauma. You know what I'm saying? We get trauma and it's passed down from generation to generation. We need to be able to learn how to deal and address with our circumstances. But sometimes we have learned to be culpable. We have learned to not say anything. We have learned to handle it in a certain way, which is the incorrect way, but that's how my mama did it. That's how my daddy did it. That's how I see
Mm-hmm.
grandma do it. And so we have to learn the right way and
Absolutely.
unlearn that bad behavior and relearn good behavior. That's what we're supposed to be doing.
That's
Yes.
right.
But what would you consider the right way
Hmm.
as far as, because some people say, I know this from my mom, I know this from
Hmm.
my dad,
Hmm.
and you saying the right way.
Hmm.
What would you recommend to be the right way for people that really don't understand what you're saying?
Well, my thing is, I'm going to tell you the right way is individual. It's the right way for you. You know what I'm saying? I can't tell Dr. Bonaparte what's the right way for her. I can
Right.
only say what's the right way for Natalie. But
Mm-hmm.
if you grew up in a household where you saw fighting, kicking, screaming, drugging, and stuff like that, and you hear I love you after you get slapped or kicked or whatever, then you're going to think if someone isn't treating you that way, they don't love you.
Yep.
But we all know that that's unhealthy.
It's
That's not
wrong.
the right way. So we have to learn what it is to be in a healthy whole relationship and
Yes.
unlearn that that is the appropriate way. There's so many people who cannot be in relationships just because they're not chaotic. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? A calm, decent relationship to them is uncomfortable
Yes.
because they don't know how to live in peace. They're so used to chaos. But
Yes.
we know societally that's not the right way, but that's not what they learned. Their
Yeah.
learned situation is I learned if you slap me, if you kick me, if you yell at me, if you degrade me, if you mishandle me, that is the right way.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. I know, like sometimes people, everybody want to say, I want to be in a positive and have positive friends, be surrounded
Hmm.
with good people and everything. After so long of you providing that positive environment for them, they become irritated with your positivity because
Mm-hmm.
they spirit craves negativity, and then they transpire and make it seem like it's you that's the problem, and
Mm-hmm.
it start to mess up the relationship and bond that you had, and then they want
Mm-hmm.
to go on to the people that does have a chaotic life and not a
Right.
peaceful life because you become boring, or you think you better than everyone else, or you think you know
Mm-hmm.
everything, and all these issues and problems will start to
Mm-hmm.
appear as though it's you when it could really be them, and they
Hmm.
don't understand that they still have a lot of growing up to do, and
Mm-hmm.
you have to move on with your life and continue to gain more positive direction and be around
Mm-hmm.
positive people. But some people just don't like the peace.
Hmm. But that's the benefit of learning. That's the benefit of mental health. The benefit of mental health and going to therapy and stuff is knowing and learning your stuff. You have to know yourself and your stuff. A lot of people struggle with self esteem, insecurities, all of those things because they don't know their stuff and know how to handle their stuff. What's mine
Mhm.
is mine, and what's yours is yours. So
That's
you
right.
have to know to be able to identify, hey, that's me, and hey, that's not me. And I
Yeah.
know when things are me and
Mhm.
Natalie stuff, and I know
Mhm.
when things are not Natalie stuff. And I put that, if I know that that's not a Natalie thing, I set that aside and I'm like, oh, that's not me. You know what I'm saying? That's not my
Right,
stuff.
right, right.
You
Yeah.
know, but you have to know yourself enough to say, okay, I can tell yeah, that's definitely not my stuff.
Mm.
Mhm.
And admitting your wrongs too. Like
Hmm.
if you're truthful with yourself and you truthful of the things that you've done wrong and you admit those things, that's a huge step for you to even go
Mhm.
to a next level in your life. And a lot of people don't know a lot
Hmm.
of your negative actions and having that bad spirit in you is blocking a lot of blessings that you
All
could have
right.
had a long time ago, but yet
Absolutely.
you're still accumulating a lot of blockage in your life,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
you're wondering why this is happening to me when
Yes.
you still need to start go back to square one and figure
Mhm.
out things for
Mhm.
you. And so if you just stay in your lane and worry about yourself and wanting to heal things for you instead of watching what's going on surrounding you, you will start to see a lot of progress in the decrease in the mental illness or mental health that you're developing every day.
You're right. Absolutely. I can agree with that because I want to use myself as an example. And I hope this helps some pastors' wives out there.
Hmm.
Um, they think, being the congregation, they think that because you're the leader and you're the PK, the pastor child, you just have such a perfect life. But 9 times out of 10, it's always mess. Most of us have watched Greenleaf, and it's just is what it is. We're human too. But the thing that I want to share personally, that affects you mentally and your behavior, it will affect you. My mother was in the ministry. She's a PK. I'm seventh generation preacher, so my mother's sixth generation. She knows the way. And see, older people, they know things. My grandmother wasn't too keen on my father, although he was a bishop. Was in Kojic and then he turned Baptist. But anyway, the point is, my father can preach like nobody's business. He can sing and he can play that organ. However, when he would go home, he would beat my mother almost to death. Now,
Wow.
my mother knew the Lord, so it's twofold things I want to share with you: what she went through and then the effects on me. My mother was quiet about it. Not that we don't have a lot of family, because we have cousins. I have a plethora of cousins that could have handled that.
Hmm.
But she was afraid. She was embarrassed. She felt like, I'm the first lady. I'm married to the bishop. I'm not going to say anything. And my grandmother wasn't like that, to be quiet. My grandmother was a rough person, but my mother was going through this mental thing as, I want to just keep it hush hush because we have something to uphold as the first family. And then, even when my mother was carrying me before I came into the world, thank God I have as much as brains as I do. Do you know my father would kick my mother in the stomach? He would drag her down the stairs. And then that affected me because my siblings and I, we observed this. Daddy's preaching and laying hands, but he comes home and beats up mommy.
Hmm.
So for me and my brothers, I have to say, two of my brothers have done the same thing to their wives.
Hmm.
So it's a domino effect. My mother almost had a breakdown. This is years ago, but God, thank God she's here. And I really don't like to talk about it in front of her because you know what? That was trauma.
Yeah.
And it still bothers her. Sometimes she cries about it. I'm saying, but Ma, you here.
Hmm.
So,
Mhm.
and then it affected me. Not so much I was afraid or felt that a man has to beat me. I actually became a tomboy. I'm better now. I
Mhm.
became just as rough, and I felt like you will not hit me. I will hit you first. So a lot of boyfriends are like, "Are you a girl or a guy?" But the thing is, like, no man is going to touch me.
Mhm.
So I became really rough, and actually, that made me mean and bitter. And one
Mhm.
day I had to say, you know what? What is wrong? So saying that I accepted, I says, okay, my past is what I saw, what I went through. So this is making me mean and bitter. And I was just a mean person for no reason. I would do nice things, but I was mean. I had this bad attitude. And once I recognized that and accepted that and said, well, I can't be blessed. Why am I preaching and I might go to hell because I have a nasty attitude or
Mhm.
answering somebody the wrong way? It's because of the trauma that I had. I never tackled the issue. And that was my way of, coming up towards people whoever I interacted with to be mean. And I wouldn't say a rude, but I had this mean spirit about me
Mhm.
because of the trauma and I hadn't tackled it. I did not address the issue. And then it just, I had to say, look, first of all, I addressed it. And then the next thing is I had to let it go.
Yeah.
And
That,
then you really have to let it go. And even not recently, a few years ago, I think I need to start a counseling something because the thing is, you can counsel people, but it's better to not so much as a therapist, but to speak to people and let them know I've been there, I
Mhm.
understand you because a lot of women they go through even men some men are cheated on and they are afraid to move forward. God can have someone right in front of you that's your special package, but you are afraid to move forward because you was cheated on. You have to let things go. And you have to say, look, this is what happened. This is how I'm going to work it out because I can't blame the next man that come in my life for what some so and so did to me.
yes.
So you have to let it go. Find out what it is. Be honest with yourself and let it go. So I hope what I said really. I'm talking to the women, especially first ladies. People don't know you. You have your Rolls Royce or whatever. You have your Mickey. You have the prestige sitting in your little chair, but sometimes you go home and your husband is a hellion, and then you're in the poor PKs. People don't like to pass the children, but you don't know what they're going through. People like me,
Yes.
probably from both sides, preachers,
Mhm.
seventh generation. So that's my life church. And
Mhm.
being in church, I want to say more, but being that this is on a worldwide platform, that's that's mental health in itself because
Yes.
it's other. This is levels of that within the church. So
Yes.
you really have to know Jesus for yourself. Don't get upset with your pastor because he's human, and do not go church hopping.
Mhm.
But find a church that is good for you, not only for your spirit, for your mind. You
Mhm.
don't need to be in a place where it's so much mess.
Mhm. Mhm.
You need to be in a
Yes.
place where you can feel whole.
Mhm.
I talk too much. I'm sorry.
Okay.
But I get on the road because the thing is, I've experienced these things.
Mhm.
I'm not old, but I've experienced a lot in life. And I think it's just the goodness and the grace of God and the mercy of God that has kept my mind. People that
Mhm.
would have gone through the things that I have gone through, and I'm still here. That's why I laugh at everything now because people like I think we did our last podcast. I laugh, not that I'm crazy, but you know what? I've learned to laugh because what are you going to do? And then now this COVID and you have this racism. So you
Yes.
have to be in a good spirit
Mhm.
because if you really let yourself go and get into this woe is me, you're just going to end up in a mental
Yes.
institution. You have to fight back
Mhm.
and say, I am going to make it. And not only that, I'm going to make it. Seek help. It's nothing wrong with seeking help. God
No.
gave wisdom to man to give
Mhm.
you therapy. You have to talk it out. We're in isolation, but you can do the telemed and
Mhm.
talk to a licensed therapist. Get it out your system and then leave it in God's hands. Get it out your system.
Mhm. Yes, ma'am.
I don't think you're going to ask me any more questions. 'Cause I talked about for like 5 hours, so I
It's okay,
understand.
Dot. It's okay, Dot.
But I wanted to share that because
Yes. I mean,
that
it was needed
affected me.
to, it was
And I'm
needed to
sure
be there.
it was needed. A lot of people that's
Yeah.
watching if in church and not church, they are
Mhm.
experiencing domestic abuse. Just like I'm
Absolutely.
glad it came out on the Clark sisters movie.
Hmm.
And oh, they didn't like it.
Yeah.
See, I can talk
Mhm.
because I have all that in my background, Kojic, PAW, um, Cool JC, and then I'm AME, CME, Baptist. So I understand. Some people are only in one sect of Christianity, so I have an open mind. So I know what goes on. And then I'm right there with ministers, a PK, a preacher myself. So some things sometimes it's not a pretty picture. And
Mhm.
that can if I share things with you, your hair would turn purple and blue. And you wonder, and then sometimes you might wonder why your first lady is nasty. Maybe you
Hmm.
wonder why she's so protective. So you don't know. Maybe he cheated on her multiple times. You don't know what's going on. People don't look at this as human. You want this, you want that. How about me? How about pray for your pastor, even
Hmm.
from a storefront church? But you're talking about mega church or you a bishop, you really have to plead the blood over your leader because it's
Mhm.
not easy. It takes a toll on them mentally. They have so much on their mind. They're doing sermons, they're doing funerals, they're doing conferences, and then they have their own personal life. So
Mhm.
everyone is a human, just like you have needs, your leader have needs as well.
A lot of them.
True. It's true. I'm thankful for my pastor at Faith Outreach because he, when I go to him and I say to him, Dad, I think we need to do something on mental health, or I think that we need to have something about mental health or whatever. When it comes to that, I have to be thankful to say, he's never said to me, daughter, you can't do it. He's always said, well, yes, let me tell how can we support and how can we make it happen. And he's always been very supportive of us doing things that is a help to the people holistically. So I mean, I'm thankful for him for that because I know that in a lot of churches you can't go to them and talk to them about anything um, that's not preaching and sermons
Mhm.
and things like that. But he has had us do platforms on mental health and conversations and small groups and large groups. And, we have two campuses and he makes sure if it happens at this campus, it happens at that campus. And he really pushes. And if he doesn't know, and that is one thing that I love about that man, if he doesn't know or if he feels it's out of his scope, he does not hesitate to call a licensed
Mhm.
person in his congregation and say, daughter, son, I think this is a little bit out of my scope. I think I'm gonna have to touch on you guys. I will connect you guys, figure it out. And my church goes so far as to even if a person can't afford sessions, they have paid for sessions for people, to get them to the right space. He um, really supports the families that attend his church. If there's a need, he definitely tries to fill the gap as best he can. If he knows about it, he is going to be about it because he definitely believes in the whole church, not just hey, you're going to come here and get your spirit right. Sometimes on I don't even know, every day he go for a walk, half the church meets him wherever he goes. I'm not out there, it's hot, but they be out there. He walked for like 6, 7, 10 miles a day in the morning time, and they just want to walk and talk with him, and they just walk and talk, and the people love him enough, and he doesn't stop people from, if they want to come and meet him and walk, they can meet him and walk, and they talk, and he talks to his kids as he's walking and doing his morning exercise, and he takes his time. When you have a leader who's invested in his flock, invested in his people, you'll see the fruit. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes we have
That's
to
right.
go through this, and you want to see the fruit of the church. You'll see the fruit, and he definitely bears fruit. We are growing. we're doing amazing things, but it's because he is so open to saying he's transparent. If he doesn't know, he's gonna find out for you. He's gonna connect you to somebody that does know. He's not ashamed to say, hey, this might be a little bit out of my scope. Let me call some people in that may be able to help you. And that's a plus to have as a leader because sometimes pride may allow leaders to people to sit right on the pew and die, not only
That's right.
spiritually, not only emotionally, but mentally. And if
Absolutely.
it'll manifest physically.
That's true.
You're right.
That's definitely true. Well, ladies, we could wrap it up. Do you guys have anything coming up soon or anything that you would like our listeners to know about yourself and your businesses that you have?
Well, absolutely. My sisters and I, so it's a group of young ladies and I, we just launched our devotional. It is a 45-day devotional for women, and it has been, mind changing, spiritual, and it's just been an honor to work with the ladies, including my own biological sister. It has just been great, and it we became Amazon bestsellers last weekend, and we are selling our books, our hard copies, and mailing them out. So if someone is interested in our devotional, you can go to my website at www.restoringharmonycounseling.com. And I'm sure Mr. Vet will put it up there for you.
Yeah.
For being on the show, you can go in and purchase it with a 10% discount. She'll give you the discount code for her show and for joining us today. I appreciate you having me on.
Yes. Thank you. You got anything coming up, Dr. Louise?
Well, what I just wanted to tell people that we are still giving grants through the nonprofits. We have various initiatives in the nonprofits. So anything that you need from us, no matter where you are located in the world, just go to my website, revdralb.org, and just fill out the contact form, and a team member will get back to you with the link to whatever you might need. Also, it is a special day coming up, which is September 1st. That was a day that the Lord had made so precious because I was born. So if you want to give me some money, you can do Cash App. Yeah, I need the money because it's not gonna be for me. If you want to, everything you give to me, I will give right back. If you want me to tell you to give to whatever organization, if you have an organization, let me know. But seriously, if you do want to bless me, it's Cash App REVDRALB. I mean dollar sign. But bless me. You gotta bless the leaders.
Mhm.
And send me a birthday card or something. I wish you all could come to Martha's Vineyard, but maybe I'll do something virtual. But I'm always having something. Only thing I can tell you is just go to my page, hit the subscribe button. We have to tweak that because there's so much going on. But
Yes.
just fill out the contact form, and a staff member will return your inquiry. And thank you for having me. Congratulations and blessings to you, Miss Natalie. Thank you,
Thank
Yvette.
you.
And
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies. We're gonna have to do this again on something else.
yes.
Absolutely.
And you're gonna have to
Absolutely.
put a mute over my mouth because I get to going.
We